It's a beautiful place to look around and an even better place to learn about. I'm WEIU's Lacey Spence, and in this episode, I'll share why you should take a hike to Ballard Nature Center.
Take a Hike on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, camping supplies, kayaks, fishing and pet supplies, and more. Find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com.
Hi, I'm WEIU's Lacey Spence. I've lived in Central Illinois my whole life, and if there's one thing I've learned, you don't have to go too far to find the beauty of the great outdoors. Come along with me as I visit a variety of parks and natural areas across Illinois, and share why you should take a hike to each episode's location. Adventure and fun await in Take a Hike, the mini-series. Welcome back to another episode of Take a Hike, the mini-series. I'm your host, Lacey Spence, and today we have packed up, hit the road, and we are at Ballard Nature Center near Altamont. And so we're welcoming on the show today, we've got Sami Childerson here. Welcome to Take a Hike.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me and for coming to Ballard's.
Of course. So I have to ask, what is your connection to Ballard?
So it goes back a little ways, actually. I started volunteering here back in high school, so in the, not to give it away, the early 2000s. And Ballard we're probably just up and coming. And started volunteering when I was in high school. I just grew a passion for science and just loved it and education, and I decided that that's what I wanted to go to for school. So I ended up going to get my master's degree at Eastern Illinois University, and actually came back to Ballard's, and I'm now a board member out here, still living the passion, living the dream. I get to bring my kids out here. It's a good time.
Yeah, and so as we're talking about Ballard today, do you know anything or can you share anything about the history or how things got kicked off here?
Sure. So we'd be remiss to say if we didn't mention Ernie Ballard, who is responsible for this property in this place. It was his dream, his vision to have something such as this, and it started in the early 60s. I can't remember the exact year, but he bought about a 40-acre parcel from a local landowner, Mr. Russell, and started working on it right away. Just started doing some natural resource, community restoration, putting in trails. His goal was to get people out here on the landscape, get one with nature. And ironically, the person he bought it from was so excited of what Ernie was doing, he offered more land. So in the 70s or so, Ernie purchased all of this property and started working on it. And he kind of did his own thing for a couple decades, not really for sure, I'm sure, where to go for help. And
that's a big undertaking.
It is, it's huge. You think about it, and he had such dreams and visions of having a place for education, for people to get out in the natural, maybe even experiment for scientific research. Just he wanted people to be able to get out and be one with nature. And so he realized that this feat probably wasn't going to be done by himself. He needed some help, and he enlisted the help of the Effingham County Soil and Water District.
Okay. And
so they stepped up and they helped Ernie, and Ernie talked to him about the visitor center and his goal for having displays, educational displays, environmental displays, and he wanted trails, and he wanted wetlands, and he wanted his woods to be brought back in. They were getting a little rough with maybe some exotics. And the more that the Soil and Water District started working with Ernie, the more they were also realizing that they probably didn't have the manpower to do everything that Ernie wanted. Yeah. So he started that, I believe, in '97, talking with the board, and eventually in 1999, a board of directors was formed for the Ballard Nature Center non-for-profit, and that board still is obviously active today, and it was because of that initial board member of, I don't know, 8, 10 people. They took over, it was deeded to them, and the rest is history. They've done an amazing job. They built the visitor center, they've built a new maintenance shed, there's awesome community types, wetland restoration, woods, they've done a lot of work in the woods, and they've done a lot of prairie restorations as well. It used to be all ag field, or pasture land, and they've completely rehabbed it to what would have maybe mimicked what was here pre-settlement time. So that was 1999, so we're over 20 years in business here as a non-for-profit.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So as far as, getting everything collected into what it is today, about how many acres are we talking?
So total right now we're sitting right around 217. The original purchase was from the Russell family, and then there's been another donation of about 7 acres was donated by Glenn Mathias's family. He was an outstanding board member here for a long time and passed away unexpectedly, and they donated 7 acres in his memory as well. So we added on just a little bit, so about 217.
And it's amazing when sites like this can make such an impact and have such a connection.
It really is. It almost gives you chills that I started here, and I remember helping seed some of these prairies, and I remember being out here teaching kids in classes, and now it's tenfold. Almost 20 years later, my kids are doing the same thing that I helped get started. So It's pretty cool to be a part of it still and see how it's really just grown, and most of it's due to amazing people and volunteers that have done this throughout the couple decades.
Sure, definitely. Okay, so we're out here today. It's gorgeous. This is my first visit here. So glad that we
welcome.
We made the trip. Thank you. So glad we took a hike here. So for folks who maybe aren't from the area or didn't even know that this is in their own backyard, guilty, what's a big draw for Ballard? What's some things that people can do here?
I think, honestly, the biggest draw is the fact that it's completely 100% public accessible, and we have over 6 miles worth of trails out here. So you can hike if you want to go out and you want to get a long hike in. Most of our trails are loop trails, so they're not like out and backs. They're loop, and you can kind of cut them if you're really feeling like a long trail. You can take the longer route, but most of them have smaller loop trails that kind of intersect. All the trails are really well marked, so the chances of getting confused on taking a little extra longer hike is a little less. Hopefully, that's a little less. And most of them are, ranked that easy to moderate trail difficulty. There's a few out here. There's a trail called Heart Attack Hill. And it'll make you feel like you might have a heart attack because it's a very steep ridge climbing up.
Challenging.
Yeah, it is a challenging one. So they named that one just so people kind of knew it might be a little bit more, but we have one awesome handicap accessible trail that goes all the way around our wetland. It's about a mile long, and we have a beautiful boardwalk, so you can have any sort of accessibility for that trail, and all of our trails are really, really well managed, so you can push strollers and everything. So it's really nice that it's all these trails, and it's not just a woodland trail. If you want to go hiking and you want to see a wetland and you want to get up close with those frogs and snakes, we have that. If you don't want to do that, then we have prairie trails. But that's not to say that you might not come up close with some awesome, amazing animal as well. So it's just, we've got a good diversity of things to experience. And then on top of that, we have a beautiful visitor center that has interactive educational displays for kids of all ages to get out and enjoy. We have a kids fishing pond. So if anytime you're out at Ballard's and you want to fish, you're more than welcome to come to the desk and ask for a fishing pole, and you can fish. It's a really fun thing for the kids to feed the fish. So you see a lot of fish, and the turtles love the fish food too. So those are probably the biggest draws. It's just a great community asset for getting out, getting one with nature, and seeing everything from your snakes all the way up to the birds in the sky. So it's really fun.
Well, you unpacked a lot there, so let me sneak back through and ask some follow-up.
Sure.
So the ADA trail, does it have a name, just so if people want to ask
for it?
for
It's the Wetland Boardwalk Trail.
Okay.
And it's right behind the visitor center, and we have really good guided trail maps that you can pick up. They're in a mailbox outside at the trailheads, so you can usually see where you're going, and they're marked pretty well. But it is marked very well. It's one of the main ones right outside the center.
And then if you pick up one of those papers, make sure you throw them away. Do not leave them on the trail.
Or better yet, recycle them.
Recycle them.
There you go.
Even better.
Or you can just take them and throw them right back in that mailbox for the next person to use.
Reuse them. Yeah, even better.
Yeah. Don't leave them out. That's a good point.
Yeah. And then if I'm someone who's wanting to bring a kiddo to fish, does that cost anything?
That is free, completely free of charge.
Wonderful.
There's limits that are set in place to keep the pond stocked.
Sure.
So you have to follow. There's a big board that tells you all the rules and regulations, but really it's free for kids. And we asked just mainly for kids to use it. But if there's a mom or a dad fishing too, we're not going to go after them or anything.
Wildlife. So you mentioned snakes.
Yes.
Well, a little creepy crawly for me, but
Oh.
you know, snakes, frogs, what other kind of wildlife can we maybe expect to see out here?
Yeah, so you know, we've done a lot of surveys and there's so much more to be done, but you can see the white-tailed deer is very prevalent. You'll see them out here. Wild turkeys often are in our bird feeding area, so you get up and close with some wild turkeys. We have 27 species that are listed as species in greatest need of conservation here at the Ballard Nature Center. So this property here not only provides really unique for us as humans to come out and enjoy it, but it's definitely a monument and very much a key role for a lot of species that are just kind of struggling and finding habitat. So that's a really cool thing. Barn owls, which used to be listed in the state of Illinois, have roosted here on the property, and owls are my favorite animal. So I'm so excited when we see them here. That's a really cool species to have. And then all your creepy collies. We've got over, I think, 16, or maybe it's 26, a lot of different herps, which is reptiles and amphibians. So yeah, you'll see everything from some really cool birds. The birding here is phenomenal. People come from all over just to sit at the wetland to see what kind of birds are using the wetland and stuff like that. So you get the common stuff, but then there's also some really cool stuff that you might be able to see when you're out on the trails too.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And so you mentioned the Nature Center, and we're going to save that for the second half of our episode. But even as we're here today, there is a Buzzy Bees demonstration that's supposed to be happening. In addition to that, can you kind of talk about maybe the different programming that happens here throughout the year?
Yeah, so the naturalist here is Karen Gruhl, and she is amazing at putting on educational programs for kids of all ages. So she will host a lot of programs for pollinators. She will do programs for birding. There's been some programs that she'll do at night for night hikes.
Ooh.
And those are almost every season. She tries to get some sort of night hike. She'll also do some like species specific, so like a program about frogs, or a program specifically about night creepy crawlies that aren't so creepy crawly once you get to learn a little bit more about them. But Karen also does a lot with the school groups, so she does educational that kind of just goes all over. I think there's over 300 or 3,000 kids that visit spring and fall, and they get to see a whole bunch of different stuff. But she does also a Halloween hike, so every year there's usually some sort of haunted, not so scary hike out here that's really fun to do as well.
Well, let's say I'm trying to find these events. Is it best to look at a website, social media? Where can I find this stuff?
Facebook is probably your best to-go point. She tries to keep everything up to date on programs, and I think you can even register for programs from Facebook messaging. We also do have a website, which is ballardnaturecenter.org, and that usually is up to date on our calendar of events. It also has a trail map on it as well. So that would probably be, those two places are the best go-to to stay up on activities and happenings out at the Ballard Nature Center.
And then to take that even further, if I'm someone who wants to give back or get involved, do you have any sort of cleanup days that happen throughout the year? Or?
So we do have a few days where we will open it up for volunteers to come out and help, trail maintenance or cleanup, or sometimes in the fall we'll have like interseeding, so we'll get some seed from the prairies that we have and we'll spread it around, and those are also usually posted on social media or on our website. And then we're always having a running list of volunteers, so if there's ever anything that people would really want to get involved with, our doors are wide open. If it wasn't for volunteers, we wouldn't have this beautiful place that we do. So all of our mowing and housekeeping and stuff is all ran by volunteers. So if they want to get involved, we definitely would be able to find something to keep them busy, I'm sure.
Well, before we got started today, you were telling me that there's someone, at least within the vicinity, I think, that it's doing prescription burning.
Yes.
How important is that, too, to keeping this place, looking beautiful?
Yeah, so we do a lot of prescribed burning here at the Ballard Nature Centers on both woodland and prairie, and it's definitely critical. If you think historically, fire was on the landscape much more prevalent than what it is now in this day and age, just because of settlement and everything that's happened over the last couple hundred years. So our goal is to reintroduce a semi-type interval fire program here, and fire helps I mean, it brings life to the prairie. Prairies are disturbed oriented habitats. I mean, you think about bison and everything that used to would have historically disturbed a prairie.
Yeah.
So we try to get those prairies active with fire. Fire helps keep the woody species out, which we don't really want to see in our prairies, and it also helps with exotic control. Exotics are probably the greatest threat to our natural communities, especially here at the Nature Center. And fire is I wouldn't say the easiest, but the most cost-effective management tool that we have to keep some of those things at bay.
Is there anything about Ballard that I haven't brought up that is definitely worth talking about?
I think just keep in mind that, you know, our mission here at Ballard's is to provide education and provide an environmentally sound place for people to visit, and we do that by managing these areas as they would have hopefully been pre-settlement. So you'll see maybe if people come out and hikes, they might see, you know, a place that's been burnt or a place where there's plants that have been sprayed because they're exotics and invasive and unwanted. But we are trying to build this place up and to keep it in like that status of what would have been here historically. And without those amazing volunteers, board members, and Karen, who's the full-time person out here at the Nature Center, that none of that would be possible. So it's a group effort. I'm from the South. I'd say, like, you know, this is a Ballard's. We all try to do something, and we'll say y'all. You know, y'all want to do this, but this out here is really an all y'all thing. Like, there's a lot of people working together to get out here and make this place what it is, and it's so impressively humbling to be a part of it.
And I know that we talked about cleanup days, but is there another step to getting involved in that all of y'all?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to really give back and invest in, you know, your outdoor space that's local to you.
Right. So the best place again would probably come out here and talk to Karen at the Nature Center, or if you'd like to talk to a board member, Karen also has lists of all the board members. I mean, you can reach out to me. Most board members out here are ecstatic to talk to people who want to help and make this place better. And I think there's even a volunteer sign up on the website that you can volunteer your time, or if you want to volunteer funds, I think there's a place for that on the website as well.
Now, do you have a favorite spot out here that if someone's never been, they have to make sure they see this before they skedaddle?
There is a large wetland that's here right behind us, and there's a perch back there, and it's called Leo's Perch. He was an amazing volunteer out here, and he helped build it. And it overlooks a wetland, and it's just a really peaceful, serene, like, just get yourself back in that state of mind of, you know, everything's going to be all right. It's just a really calm, peaceful place to be, and that's probably my #1 place to go to.
Wonderful. Well, Sami, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to dive into everything that the Nature Center has to offer. So don't go anywhere. Take a hike. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have made it to the Nature Center. We've still got Sami here, our guide extraordinaire, and she's going to show us kind of what this Nature Center has to offer for our young nature enthusiasts. So what do we have in here?
So we have an awesome exhibit room is what we call it, and it's natural exhibits and educational displays for kids of all ages.
Yeah.
So we start here in kind of the younger explorer room, and it's got quite a few different things that a young explorer can mess with. They can make prints in the sand to see what kind of animals around here, what kind of prints they have. And then there's even an eagle quilt on the wall where you can see the wingspan of an eagle and what your wingspan is compared. And then it even has a hummingbird on it as well. So you can see the huge difference between different birds. And then there's other things that you can touch and feel for kids. There's walnuts, there's skulls, there's antlers, there's turtle shells, stuff that maybe they might not always see on a hike, but they can experience here in the center. And even in this cool little tree that we had made for us, when a kid gets inside there and looks up, or adult if they want to try to crawl in there too, looks up, there's different displays inside of animals that might use old tree cavities for habitat as well. So it's educational, but it's fun, and it's really fun as well. So from there we get some more hands-on activities. Probably one of the favorite things for kids to visit is to be able to touch pelts.
Yeah.
So we have pelts of different mammals that can be found in Illinois. Maybe not all of them here, although I would bet most of them could be found if you looked hard enough and were pretty quiet, which doesn't usually happen when we're on trail hikes.
Right.
So they get to touch them. We've seen kids put them on their heads. You know, we get. It's nice to get to feel exactly what a beaver might feel like, or a badger, or a skunk, stuff that they might not see up close in person. So this is probably like super exciting. The other thing that kids really love are the mystery boxes behind you. So you don't know what's inside the mystery box, but you have to stick your hand in there to feel and guess what it is. Don't worry, there's no live animals. You're not gonna get bit by anything in those boxes, but it just gives another kind of edge to experience different textures in nature. So it's
I got a feel in one.
Do it. See if you can guess it before you pull your hand out.
I don't even feel anything.
Oh, is it an
Am I
empty
feeling
one?
in the wrong spot?
No, there should be. Oh, here's one. Oh,
I picked the wrong side.
you picked the wrong.
Okay. It feels like it wants to be a claw.
Oh, it might be. You can pull
what
it
do I
out
got?
and see. And
Not even. It was
So
a
it's
little
a gourd.
pointy.
Yeah.
I gave it a shot, but I can see
you
that'd be
go.
fun.
Yeah, it's different. They have their seed pods in there. So
Yeah.
it's different things are in
back in
every
there.
box, and I think this one even has some cool little mussel shells as well. So again, things that exist in nature, but just taking a hike you might not always get to see it. So you get some hands-on experience, and it puts a little edgy fun in it as well. The other cool thing about the center here is we have interactive displays kind of interspersed throughout the entire exhibit room. Even in here, it might not show up too great because the lighting is a little different, but it's different animals that are nocturnal and how they use spaces available. So we try to get as much as we can in these exhibits, again, for kids of all ages. And we want to be, like Ernie wanted, the educational aspect of it.
Sure.
So it's fun, but kids are learning too. So this is probably the cream of the crop when you come to the visitor center and you get to see our bird watching display. And it's really cool because all of these windows are mirrored. So you can see out, but the birds cannot see in. So usually you get a little bit better bird viewing activities because they're not scared of you. We're dealing probably with rest time for birds, so they're probably not super active in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, a little
but
hot.
Karen does a great job of managing it, and we're redoing our little pond here to make it deeper and more effective so we can get maybe some tadpoles and kind of have a more diverse bird viewing area. But there's some folks that'll come and just sit, and this is just the most peaceful thing. We even provide binoculars for kids, so you don't have to have them with you. And Karen probably fills those bird seeders more than she'd like to admit.
Well, this is so cool, and I can imagine coming to this area and being like, Mom, I have to go get my own set of binoculars just to have one at home. I'd be so excited.
Usually we have to remind the kids to slow down and take it all in because there's just so much to see that even for little dudes, it's kind of hard to take it all in. So that's why we put those fun interactive displays in as well.
Sure.
All of our exhibits here were either donated by volunteers, or the Nature Center might have had to purchase some stuff, but most of it came from people who wanted to give back and didn't know how to help, and they said, oh, we have a turkey mount, can you use that at the center? And we're like, yeah, we can make a woodland display of woodland critters that you could find in southern or south central Illinois. So that's how that one is made. They made the tree and everything. They brought in the little fawn and the raccoon, everything that you can kind of maybe see when you're on a hike, and most of those animals would probably, you could see them on a trail. on a trail hike if you're super quiet and stealthy.
Well, you were saying earlier too, the wild turkeys were getting a little closer to
Yeah,
the nature
that
center.
bird viewing area, it's like a buffet sometimes for the wild turkeys, because they're like, oh, free food, we'll take it.
Love that.
Especially when they have their poults, they're young. It's super cute when they all come running up, and then you have a whole bunch of little turkeys, and then the mom turkey's just sitting there like, get your fill, kids, come and get it. So we keep moving through. There's tons of displays. We try to even include not just, animals and plants. We're doing minerals and fossils and stuff to kind of get a little bit of everything of the natural resources as a whole, not just, just plants and animals. How it was formed, what was here historically, and why maybe we are trying to keep the prairie, and why we're trying to keep the woodlands in the same type of condition, and maybe even improve upon them because of what was here, historically in pre-settlement time. And then one of the coolest exhibits that kids love is the aquarium/terrarium. And that's because they get to see some live critters in their quote-unquote natural habitat, right?
Yeah.
So Karen does a great job of managing this, and they've done some work to it over the years to make it even better. She's got a couple painted turtles, it looks like, in there right now, and a goldfish, and we used to have a tree frog, but you can never see it because they're so stealthy that it's hard to find. But this is probably one of the kids' favorite things because everybody loves to see nature up close and personal.
Yeah. Is there anything else about the center that we might have missed, or?
There's hours, and they're listed on the website. It's not always open, usually 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. During the winter, I believe we're closed on Mondays, so always take a look at that website, make sure that the Nature Center is open. But when the doors are open, you are more than welcome to come and explore and just enjoy, learn, get a feel for things, and then if you have the opportunity, get out and take a hike while you're here as well.
Awesome. Well, Sami, thank you so much. You have shared so much knowledge. I can't understand why anyone wouldn't want to come take a hike here to Ballard. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. And thank you to our viewers for joining us for this episode. And I hope to see you next time.
Take a Hike on WEIU is supported by Roll King, America's farm and home store, camping supplies, kayaks, fishing and pet supplies, and more. Find your store and more information regarding Roll King at rollking.com.